Hey, welcome in, golfers. It is your buddy Chapadong. I am coming at you with a PGA version of DFS Diary this morning. We kick off the Waste Management Open this week. It's one of my favorite tour stops just because of the 16th hole in the stadium that encompasses that hole, and it is a bucket list item of mine to be there one day, be stone cold drunk, and be just hooting and hollering with all the fans and heckling all of the golfers as they go through there because that's the one chance you get in golf to basically make noise while people are hitting the golf ball. And although I'm a traditionalist, a purist when it comes to golf, and I hate that shit, when it is actually being given permission, I love it. So let's dive in. Let's talk a little bit of waste management. I've not done a video like this before for PGA, so we're going to be a little bit slow in the beginning. We will formulate a process as we go through the year and hopefully be getting somewhere here by the Masters that we can count on repeating again and again and again, cutting out the fluff and putting us on decent players. PGA is obviously a volatile sport like hockey and like baseball and like everything else, so getting 5 of 6 and 6 of 6 through the cut is very, very difficult. And honestly, when you do that, sets you up very, very well. There is one thing I've noticed on Fanduel, so I'll focus a little bit more on Fanduel today. We'll get to DraftKings eventually too, but I've been playing a lot on Fanduel the past 2 years. And so the transition back towards DraftKings has been a little bit interesting for me. You know where to find me out on Twitter, obviously, at Chopadong. You know about February sweeps and helping me retweet to spread the word and buy DFS Army memberships for people at random that help me out, help me help you, sort of thing from Jerry Maguire. I dive into the research station here in a little bit. We may get into the domination station optimizer a little bit. But most importantly, if you're interested in the content tools and coaching that make people better players, that put the leaderboard, put the hats on top of leaderboards like you see, doesn't matter what sport it is, from NFL, NBA, PGA, MMA, hockey, baseball, whatever. We're very good at what we do. We've got content tools and coaching inside. We have accessibility. You cannot go to other sites typically and talk to the pros. You can here. You can ask them questions. You can communicate with me all day long. You can talk to our NBA coaches. You can talk to whatever. I'm more of the jack of all trades, master of none. I'm the guy that gets you to the point where you want to take the training wheels off the bicycle and see if you can't ride it without falling over on your own. I will lock up a lot of your fundamentals, make sure you're fundamentally sound and that you're not the fish out there anymore. And the guys that go beyond me to become more than hobbyists generally, say thanks for your time and whatever, and they move on, and that's all good. I'm focused on the new guys, the struggling guys, the guys like you or me that play for small dollars and whatnot, and want to see if maybe someday they can get better. Those are the guys that will follow the link, the dfsarmy.com link in the description of the video or the comment section. Use the coupon code CHOP, CHOP, for that 20% off discount and maybe help me with the retweets and get a free month through February sweeps. So without further ado, the link to the Google Sheets is up here in the top left corner. You come to the PGA tab, you drop down, you click the research station, and then you click that Google Sheets link and open that bad boy up inside the spreadsheet. I'm not great with this spreadsheet yet. I use it very, very, very basically, but I'm going to describe all of the columns because I actually have a friend inside DFS Army that is blind. And yes, I said blind. And I don't know how the guy plays. I have mad respect for him and the work ethic and the time that he puts in. And so I try to set him up as best I can with being able to use the software reader and know what the columns are saying. So that's kind of where I'm going to go in this first video. And hopefully we pick a couple of plays here or there. My best advice to you is follow DFS Up North out on Twitter, inside our coaching channels. Read his articles. Brody Schnarr is also very good with the preview articles and always gives a pretty decent cash game synopsis at the bottom of his article. So there's 2 preview articles for you, and then Josh will come out today or tomorrow with Chalk Donkey. Well, it won't be tomorrow. Today with Chalk Donkey, which tells you how to get on and off the chalk to win GPPs, and it's one of the best articles that we have inside all of DFS Army, and that's why we lock it up and keep it VIP only. If you want to read that article, you got to come inside. You can see the order over here once you've got that opened up. John Rahm, Justin Thomas, Hideki Matsuyama, Gary Woodland, Xander Schauffele, they round out the top 5 on FanDuel in terms of pricing. And you can see where they shuffle up a little bit on DraftKings. You can kind of follow along and get ideas to where somebody may be more valuable, where they may have missed pricing on one site but not the other. The other thing you're going to look for, if I go over across columns A, B, C, D, E, I'm not going to do that so much. I'm going to talk the golfer info is obviously name and then pricing on Fanduel and DraftKings. The odds section is next. And open, live, and drift tells you where they open, where they are now. 7-1 for Jon Rahm, for example, stayed the same. Down at Hideki Matsuyama, opened at 12-1, is now 11-1. So that's a 6% drift in Vegas's favor towards winning the tournament. He's getting the public is moving him more towards a favorite. Okay, and you can see two more down. Xander Schauffele, 16-1. It's where he opened. 17-1 is where he is now. That is a negative 5% drift. That can help you make some decisions on whether or not you like a guy or don't like a guy based on what the public is thinking. Now, if you're a lemming and you like to follow everybody off the cliff, go for it. I tend to make up my own mind. That does help me when I'm tie-breaking people. My goal in golf is to get down to a player pool of, say, 10 to 20 golfers, really, really strong golfers. I may let the domination station mix them up. I may have my favorites. One of the strategies that I will employ this week that I haven't seen the last couple, or that I've seen in the last couple of weeks, but I haven't employed myself. I like very, very balanced, very, very balanced builds myself. Nobody really over, that 11, 12,000 mark if I can avoid it, because then it forces me to take a guy down in the low sevens that's probably struggling to make cuts, and I need to get. It's very important to get 6 of 6 through on FanDuel. Now, I've seen guys that find one of those low $7,000 guys, and then that actually buys them some of these high $11,000 and $12,000 guys. That's sort of using the NBA drop score format. I mean, you don't get to drop the score, obviously, but it's allowing you to spend cheap in one spot, almost completely punt it, with hopefully a reasonable shot to make the cut, and then pay up for, instead of 3 guys, maybe 4 guys that can actually win the tournament. That extra upgrade has been making the difference the last 2 or 3 weeks that I've noticed. So that is an interesting strategy. I tend to employ it this week as an experiment, and I'll probably do it across a couple of lineups and see, maybe enter a 3 max or something and see if I can't get something great. But that's how you would use some of those odds and drifts back on track here, with moving guys towards favorite, towards underdog status, and seeing who the big movers and shakers are, because it also tells you where the ownership is liable to be. And in golf, because it's such a volatile sport, we like fading the chalk more in this sport than a lot of the others. There's no way to stack against it in this sport, but the chalk fails here a lot. Doesn't mean you should always fade it. It just means be prepared for it to fail and let you down more often here than, say, NBA, or more often here than, say, NFL, because it's the nature of the sport. The next section over to the right from the odds is the projections, and below it you'll see FP and VAL. That is fantasy points and value. Obviously, it's projections. And in golf, I don't know how great they are. Not to insult the guys that put them together. I will watch the value column and see who is projected to bring a ton of value. I like the fact that Jon Rahm, Hideki Matsuyama are generally going to be popular players, and yet Justin Thomas is right up there with them price-wise and is set to bring more value for his salary. I like that a lot, because it tells me I might look at a Justin Thomas. Phil Mickelson's going to be very popular. Ricky Fowler's going to be very popular. And so out of this top 5, 6, 7 guys, you're probably only going to get 1 or maybe 2 if you really punt, that 6th guy. But man, you're going to be looking at the value guys. It's interesting to see that Justin Thomas leads the way. Next section, over course history. And then directly to the right of that, you'll see another little mini section of columns. This would be really hard to follow with reader software. So, I apologize to my friend, but it's going to take a lot of patience. Strength and field size is just telling you strength of the field, really when the top ranked golfers in the world are in this event or not. If the strength of the field was weak, I would definitely be one of those guys maybe struggling to make cuts, and I would show more success in a tournament like that because, say, the top 10 or 20 players in the world aren't there. It's really all I use it for. Field size is fine. Full fields of 150, something like last week were, 120-ish, whatever it seemed like. I don't know. I don't look at these numbers a ton. Don't care about them a lot yet. What I do look at in the course history, to me, it's important because you'll hear people overplay it and underplay it. I lean more towards the overplaying it side because I think that, I know. For those of you that don't know me, golf is my deal. Not DFS golf, real golf. I've played it ever since I could walk, and I've been highly competitive in various eras through my life. Have been a teaching pro, have been tournament director at golf courses, have worked in the industry. Golf is my deal. And I can tell you that certain courses set up better for me than other courses. And that is absolutely the same with professional golfers. And you will see guys more successful on the West Coast or more successful in Florida or more. You will see that because of the way their games are set up. So watch that stat closely. If I see a bunch of green across those below course history, 18, 17, 16, 15, that column is telling you the year, 2018, 2017, 2016. And then below it in the players, you'll see John Rahm's an 11 and then a 16 and then a nothing and then a 5. That tells me he finished 11th last year, 16th the year before that, didn't play in 2016, and finished 5th in 2015. Good course history here. Hasn't missed a cut in the 3 times he's played here. He's finished top 20 all 3 times. Hello. I will look below that at Justin Thomas, 17th, missed cut, 17th. Little up and down. Not great course history here. I will look at Hideki Matsuyama, withdrew last year, and before that, won the damn thing, placed second, placed fourth. So in his 5 years here, he withdrew once due to some kind of an injury or something. I think he was heading to missed cut anyway, but has been top 5 4 times. Do you think the guy, if he's showing any kind of recent form at all, which is the next category we'll get into, do you think that he has any chance here at all? Of course he does. In cash games, he's probably a lock. He should be very chalky, very highly owned. I'm going to look for guys like that. When I go down the list to a Phil Mickelson, I see one missed cut in the last 7 years playing this tournament. I've seen that he's won it once. He's been top 5 twice. He's never been outside of the top 50. Good solid pick. Probably will do well here. Looking down a little bit more, you can scroll down this list and you can find Brandon Steele. Never missed the cut here and has 1, 2, 3, 4 top 10s in 7 years. Good course history. Kevin Na, never missed the cut. Charlie Hoffman's only missed once. Bill Haas never missed the cut in the last 7 years anyway. Scrolling down. I like looking for value guys like Harris English missed the cut last year, but had not missed the previous 6 cuts. He is successful here. He's a cut maker at 8,400 on Fanduel and 6,900 on DraftKings. Might be on your short list. I will go by this column a ton. Now, Scott Stallings, 7,600 and 6,600. Positive 11% drift. Opened at 181, 100 and whatever, plus 1,800 or whatever the hell that translates to, is up now to plus 1,600, meaning he's gaining favor. I'm not sure why. He finished 23rd in 2018 and then didn't play in 2017, and then the previous 5 years missed the freaking cut. So unless his game is in top shape, I wouldn't count on the guy doing any good here. Can he? Sure, he made the cut last year. But, come on. He's missed the cut 5 out of 6 tries. That tells me that the course does not suit him. Tony Finau is interesting. Missed the cut the last 3 years. Watch the ownership on him. Can he do well here? Sure, he's a great golfer. But I'm going to say this is a good opportunity to fade him. It sucks. I like Tony Finau. So that's how I'm going to use that column, is getting some ideas. And like I said, I tend to overplay that column. Some people tend to downplay it. I know from real life experience that it matters. Recent form is the next big section over, and you can see FO, which is Farmers Insurance Open, DC, which is Desert Classic, Sony Open, Tournament of Champions, blah, 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 all the way across the board. It goes back, what, 10, 12 tournaments or so. And it tells you where the guy placed. So going back to the top on the list, Jon Rahm, good course history this week at Phoenix, at Waste Management. And last week placed fifth, week before placed sixth, 2 weeks before that, Tournament of Champions placed eighth. That was the opening kind of tournament for January. I don't know that I would go back much before that until we get, into late February or so. But looking at what they've done back to the TFC, all top tens. Jon Rahm, great play. He has success here, and he's in good recent form. That's really what I'm looking at a ton. I'm looking at Justin Thomas, decent recent form, hasn't played for 2 weeks. He's in decent recent form, though, but he doesn't have great course history here, so he'd be more of a GPP play. Hideki Matsuyama, outstanding course history here. Decent recent form. Third last week, 51st 2 weeks ago. Okay, should be okay here. Should have his game going. Should be rolling just fine. Gary Woodland missed the cut here a couple of times, but decent recent form. A little up and down. 9th last week, 80th 2 weeks ago, 2nd at the Tournament of Champions, and then rolling back into 2017, did have good recent form with a bunch of top tens. So, probably fine. Xander Schauffele won the Tournament of Champions and won a few weeks before in 2017, finished 25th last week. Those are his only 3 tournaments that he's played in the past, say, couple months, and he's won twice and placed 25th. I'd say he's in good shape. Recent form's good. He's not played this tournament but once, and he was in the top 20. Xander Schauffele, probably a solid play. Okay, that's how you're going to be able to draw conclusions listening at the list. Again, terribly, terribly hard work if you're hovering over and listening to the ranks and trying to kind of keep all these notes in your head. But this is how I use this sheet. When I come over to fantasy scoring, I may go actually to, I know that, let's just say, from reading some of the promo articles this week, the key stats are other areas that I will go to. And I will rely on our coaches to tell us how the course shapes up and what type of player performs well here. Is it a guy with a better approach game? Is it putting? Is it scrambling? Is it a guy, with driving accuracy, or a guy with length, or whatever? Today's key stat, the big one, is strokes gained off the tee. And down here in the very, very bottom, we do have the ability to tab over on those tabs at the very, very bottom of the screen and get over past fantasy scoring. What are they? DraftKings, Fanduel, Showdown Tools, Field Rank Tracker, Fantasy Scoring, and then next is Strokes Gained. You can open that up and look at all of the stroke gained options. Okay, off the tee is one you're going to be looking for this week. Approach is probably another one you're going to be looking for this week. Driving distance is pretty big here. It's big almost every week. Sometimes driving accuracy is more important. This week, not so much. I would look for, well, I don't know if they still have the stat anymore if I scroll over here and look for it. Total driving is an interesting one for me because it combines driving distance and accuracy, and that's just incredibly important. But I saw another article out on Twitter earlier this week that showed that total driving or driving distance did not correlate as strongly this week to the winner as strokes gained off the tee. So I would be putting a ton of weight on strokes gained off the tee. So I'll get to that in a second. But the field fantasy scoring, fantasy points per hole, rank, projected round score, projected. I don't use this section much. I know that green is good, red is bad. I know that, big fantasy points per hole, 1.06 is better than, say, 0.87. So maybe you use those, maybe you don't. I don't really use that much yet. I might incorporate it as I learn more about how it would kind of incorporate in with what I'm looking at. But right now I'm using course history, recent form, key stats, maybe some Vegas odds, and I'm looking for guys that are kind of mismatched pricing wise and are out of place. Field adjusted statistics, total rounds, shot link rounds, made cut percentage. That's a big one. You want guys that make the cut. Driving distance, of course, is always a pretty big one. Although some guy at a 306.7 and a 307.5 There's no difference there. You want to get the 307 guy over the 299 guy. You know what I'm saying? Makes a bigger difference. Half a yard doesn't mean shit, whereas 10 yards means quite a bit. Okay, driving accuracy is pretty much always important, but it's stressed in courses with tighter fairways, thicker rough, stuff like that. More trouble down the sides than it is, in a more wide open course like this. Greens and regulations always important, but proximity to pin is another one you need to pay attention to, or strokes gained on the approach. Because if the guy, you can hit all of the greens in the world, but if you're always 40 feet away, you don't have much of a chance of making the putt. You need to get it close. Birdies gained, average fantasy point gain, double bogey to avoid, whatever. These are all statistics. You can look at them if you'd like. Next section over, field rank splits. I don't even really look at it. Last 15, last 25, last year, West Coast, par 71. I don't give a shit. I'm sure it's important to some people. I don't give a shit. Then there's the stroke gained category, and you see off the tee right there. Last 10, last 25, last 50 rounds and consistency. I think I would want high consistency. I know I would want to see a high number last 10, last 25 rounds or so. Jon Rahm is up there. He's green, 0.59, 0.64, 0.74. Last 10, last 25, last 50 respectively. 0.89 consistency. If he's green and he's got big numbers there, I want him to be consistent with them. The next one down, Justin Thomas, is more consistent supposedly than Jon Rahm, but his last 10 rounds 0.01, last 25 rounds 0.23, last 50 rounds 0.40. I don't see where he's more consistent. He's certainly not consistently gaining strokes off the tee like Jon Rahm is. So the consistency number might be full of a bunch of crap. I don't really know. I just know that off the tee, Jon Rahm's in great shape. Gary Woodland is in great shape over his last 50 rounds, but not so much the last 10 rounds. He's been a little wild lately. Going down, Tony Finau, great numbers. Again, but doesn't make the cut here. So that's interesting that a guy with strong off the tee stats doesn't make the cut here. Interesting. Going down, Bubba Watson, stand to reason, one of the longer hitters. That's one of the strengths of his game is driving the golf ball. Strong numbers here. Brendan Steele, pretty strong numbers here and hella consistent numbers. That's okay. So now that would be more what I would be looking for. Brendan Steele, 22nd row down in the names. Scroll over to the right, off the tee, strokes gained. What is that? Column CI. And CJ and CK. 0.42, 0.32, 0.52. While it's not as high as Jon Rahm at 0.69 whatever, he's more consistent at a 1.03 in column CL. That tells me that Brendan Steele has got good course history here, is consistent off the tee, consistently gaining strokes off the tee, and it probably pays for him here. Down two more, row 24, JB Holmes. Good numbers off the tee. JB Holmes might be a sneakier play this week. Down to row 27, Billy Horschel. Go over to those columns again, CI, CJ, and CK, and he's got decent numbers right there with Brendan Steele. Okay, this is how you're going to have to sift through this stuff and look at it. The approach numbers are great. Billy Horschel has great strokes gained off the tee and pretty good last 10 and last 25 round approach numbers. That's the next section, CM, CN, CO, CP. Same thing, last 10 rounds, last 25 rounds, last 50 rounds, and a consistency number. So using guys that get good strokes gained off the tee and good strokes gained on the approach, probably going to be a good play. Let's go back up here and we can see that Hideki Matsuyama, well, there you go. This is, okay, here we go again with conflicting evidence. Hideki Matsuyama, row 7. Off the tee section, CI, CJ, CK, CL, whatever. 0.10, 0.19, 0.21, decent consistency at a 0.9, consistently down around 0, but it's at least consistent. He is gaining some. He's positive there. Look at his approach numbers. 1.49, 1.41, and 0.74. 1.49 over his last 10 rounds. Do you think the dude's throwing darts? I mean, he is sticking it tight to the pin. Problem is, his putting numbers really, really suck. we go over to the next section, CQ, CR, CS, CT, that's around the green, which again is, chipping, pitching, a little bit of bunker play, short approaches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a good one. That's where Justin Thomas tends to thrive if you look at those numbers compared to everybody else's. It's not a key stat this week. Off the tee is, approach is a decent stat. Putting is always important, but it's more important at tougher putting courses than this one. So, Hideki Matsuyama has won here quite a bit before, and he sucks as a putter. So what'd that tell you? Tells me throwing darts is really freaking important here. If you can dial in your wedges and your mid irons and just start chucking it at pins and getting it tight, these guys are all pros. They're gonna make the close putts. If Hideki's hitting it close, Hideki be winning. Or at least finishing very close to the top of leaderboards. So that's basically how you're going to use that tool. Okay. Now I will go down into the showdown or the stroke gain tools just to show that. There's a neat player comparison tool tab next to the right of the strokes gain down there at the bottom in the tabs. There's your off the tee. Last 10 rounds, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way back to the last 20 rounds. I believe it goes back 20 rounds. It's very, very interesting with John Rahm at a 0.6, 0.9, whatever. If I scroll over all the way over to the left, okay, so column E, F are last 10 and last 20 rounds. Columns G, H, I, G, all the way through Z are 20 rounds of history. How many strokes gained off the tee he gained on the field, as a comparison tool. Again, you want more green than red. You want positive numbers. You want 0.6s, 0.9s, 1.6 in column O 9 rounds ago or 9 tourneys ago for John Rahm at a 1.6 was dominant. Go all the way over to 18 tourneys back, column X, and he's got a 2.0 off the tee. Massive advantage off the tee. He was driving the ball really, really well. It does the same thing for strokes gained approach. That's what AA and then AB through about AV, and then around the green, and then putting. So hover over those, pick up what you can. You can see that again, Hideki Matsuyama in the stroke gained approach, column AA and AB. Hideki Matsuyama is the third one down. He's row 6. Got a 1.49 and a 1.34. That is insane compared to these other guys. And then you go back one round, it's a minus 0.8, where he actually lost strokes on the approach last week. Still placed, third or something like that. 0.1, 0.8, 2.6, 4.6 strokes gained approach 5 tournaments ago. He went on a run 4, 5, 6, 7 tournaments ago, call it 8 tournaments ago, where he gained 2.6, 4.6, 2.3, 2.8, and 1.9 strokes, basically per round of those tournaments. It's pure insanity. That's a hell of a run. And this is a guy that has a lot of success here, which is why I'm keying on him. He's had so much success here. When his strokes gained off the tee aren't great, but his strokes gained approach are phenomenal. Personally, I'm going to give a little bit more weight to strokes gained approach at this course. Why? Because the dude who has all the success here can't putt, doesn't gain a lot of strokes off the tee, but gains a ton on his approach. So far be it from me to call our experts wrong, but I'm going to say I have empirical evidence showing me that on a very, very small sample of one player, the one player who went back to back and has never finished outside of the top 10, dominates his strokes gained per approach and is mediocre off the tee. I don't know, logically that adds up to me. So that would put a Chez Reavie down in column row 18, column AA, last 10 rounds, strokes gained approach 1.4. Hideki's a 1.49, Chez Reavie's a 1.4. I might start my building with those two. Let's go back over to, these are things that I'm just logically thinking through. Let's go back over to the main FanDuel page. Keep our eye on Chez Reavie. Ooh. Chezzy Boy's on down the list. He's 20th in salary. Well, not 20th. There's a couple of them missing. So about 16th in salary. And he's got the 1.4 last 10 rounds strokes gained on the approach. So if I like that column, let me see if I can sort it. I know we're going on 30 minutes here, but can I sort by you? No. There is a way. There used to be a way. Darn. That I used to be able to sort. There we go. Sort Z to A. Please don't screw everything up. Please don't screw everything up. So maybe I need to go A to Z. I right-clicked it, and that brought it up. Ooh, A to Z was so wrong. Strokes gained approach. I need this CM column. I need it to go back to Z to A. There we go. And Hideki Matsuyama pops into the top in the approach. Can I get this down? I hate that. So Hideki Matsuyama's number 1 on that list. Chez Reavie's number 2. Billy Horschel's number 3. Grillo's number 5. Sabbatini, Matt Kuchar, Cam Smith. Start hearing our coaches murmuring the Cam Smith name. He'd be one to watch. Keith Mitchell. Everybody seems to like Byung-Young An. That's how you say his first name. JJ Spawn be a sneaky play. Webb Simpson is never too tasty. Xander Schauffele's down the list, but he's still in the top, say, 20. Cockrak's in there. These would be the guys that I'd be looking for. And I'd be looking for the guys that have that strong stroke gamed off, and I'd look at off the tee and make sure it's also positive. You know, that's Billy Horschel. Grillo, I'm sorry, Anders Alberson's interesting. There's maybe your punt at 7,900. 6,300 on DraftKings. But again, if I go back over here, scroll over to the Fanduel stuff, and look at the course history, I'm looking at Matsuyama with a dominant course history. Billy Horschel does well here, doesn't miss cuts. Chez Reavie's missed a cut 3 out of the last 4 years, but placed second here last year. That would be where I might be taking some risk. So if I go back into his tournaments, his stroke gained off the approach numbers aren't so great. Once his strokes gained approach numbers got great, now he's got a decent had a decent run here, furthering the importance of perhaps that statistic this week. And that'd be great if we're on a statistic this week that everybody else is not on because they're thinking of driving and off the tee. This is where we'll find our lower owned players that have a better shot at winning. And the rest of the herd won't be on them. So you heard it here first. I'll go ahead and make that call because I don't frankly care. I'm not going to claim to be a PGA expert in DFS, but I'm going to claim to be a logical enough guy that when I start picking apart this sheet and I see that the guys with the damn track record here are dominating one particular category and it's not the one everybody else is recommending, I'm going to go ahead and use that to my advantage. And I'm just going to say, if I'm right and you're wrong this week, I'm going to laugh all the way to the GPP bank. So Matsuyama, Reavie, Horschel, maybe Albertson if you've really got balls. Grillo, who last week finished in the almost in the top 50, but has a good run of top 30s. Before that, has okay history here. That might scare me off a little bit at 9,800 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DraftKings. Rory Sabbatini, we mentioned a little bit ago, older dude, but missed the cut once in the last, say, 4 appearances here. Recent form has been making cuts. 7,900. I'd probably take the Alberson over Rory Sabbatini at this point. Kuchar's in there. Kuchar's playing great. Won 3 weeks ago. Won late last year. Has good course history here. 2 top 10s. Hasn't missed the cut in the last 4 appearances. 4 appearances in 7 years. Hasn't missed the cut. Again, strong approach game because that's what I've got this column sorted by. Cam Smith is also a good driver of the golf ball, so that one will play into our hands here. Recent history, top 10 last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, top 20. Hasn't missed the cut in his past 5 events that I can see on this chart, but has missed the cut here at the Waste Management 3 years ago. Two top 50s. So again, these are the gambles you might want to take. But I'm really looking for strong course history, good recent form, and then I'll be looking at the strokes gained approach. So I'm going to run off and I'm going to do more of that. A couple of names that were popping out to me. We'll dig a little bit deeper. But always, always follow our coaches. They know more than I do about this stuff. I just think I might be onto something this week. Hopefully it helps. Hopefully walking through this helped. It can guide you through some of the statistics, some of the tabs, some of the tools, etc. I won't get into the domination station this time. We'll save that for another time. Next time will be shorter, I promise. This was just the first kind of jump in. And for those of you that only last 10 minutes, I apologize, but you were gone 25 minutes ago. If this is the type of coaching, type of analysis, type of stuff that you like to see, obviously hit me up with a comment, a like, a subscribe, ring the notification bell so you get all the videos. Run down into the DFS or the comment section, subscribe to dfsarmy.com, use coupon code CHOP, and hopefully I see you inside where we can talk in a lot more detail than we can out here. You get to see a lot here, but you don't get to steer the steering wheel and step on the gas. You want the controls yourself, you got to pay for it, you got to come inside. Read the VIP articles because I'm telling you, Chalk Donkey is one of the greatest pieces we produce. All right, guys, I'm out of here for this week. Take care. We'll be back next week with more PGA stuff, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever the research station pops up, and I'll walk you through it again. Take care.